Welcome back, everybody. Let's just continue. So in the application section, go down to system tools, and here you have like a lot of interesting things. So for example, you have a system monitor, which is a very nice utility, and we'll show you an equivalent of it in the terminal, which people do tend to use quite often. So you have file systems. You can take a look at them. They are listed here. Pretty much, come on. Yep, there we go. So run media, random guy, VBox, guest editions. That is the mount point of my guest editions. So that's when it's used 100%, which is which is the way it's supposed to be. But you can also see pretty much everything else. Let's go into processes. Here you can take a look at all the processes that are currently running on your system. If there was anything, well, after a while, I know it seems when you look at it like this kind of complicated and you don't know what is what and you wouldn't be able to tell apart a malicious thing from a benevolent thing. Over the course of time, over when you start using it, when you learn about it, when you use it on a daily basis or something of a kind, and you pass the Red Hat certification for a system administrator, eventually you just need to take a look at this once and you pretty much know what each one of these things does, or in 99% of the, or in those 1% of the cases out of 99%, you have a vague idea of what that process is and then you can figure it out from there. But believe me, people can just glimpse at this and pretty much know what each one of these does relatively fast with relative ease. Anyway, in addition to that, you got the user that's running those processes, a random guy. That is me. That is my username that I have created. Yours is probably different. I hope to God that you didn't copy mine. I strongly urge you to type in whatever you wish. And in addition to that, we have the amount of resources that our current processes are consuming. So you can see most of them are pretty much idle. But this one, the GNOME shell, is consuming 32% of the CPU, has this ID, which can be used to actually kill the process. And then we have 573, what is this? Megabytes, I think. Hold on. Let me just expand it. Yep, it's 573 megabytes of RAM, which is a fairly expensive process in comparison to pretty much everything else that is running here. However, there are better tools which we will use in the terminal and that will give you better overview of the entire situation. But know that this exists. Okay, so let's just close it. Go back to our place, system tools. And there we go. So it says Red Hat Subscription Manager. You can configure your subscriptions here if you want other sort of registrations. What I really want to do is go ahead and click on software. And here you can actually search for different sort of packages, so backup client, let's see, just select it. And this is basically a graphical user interface for the installation of various packages, of various software programs, etc. So you can pretty much find whatever is in the repositories here. However, people don't tend to use this one as it is a GUI. But again, another one of those things that you should know that it exists. And all those, for example, on Windows, on Android, and on Mac, you know how they say, oh, it's amazing, you have this store, and you go there and you can download software immediately from there. Well, let me just tell you, Linux had that from the very beginning. Like from the very beginning. Well, maybe not the first Linux that ever came out, but it's pretty close. I'm sure of it. Pretty much, people have just been pulling software from the official repositories for as long as I know. So long before Windows, long before Apple, Mac OS X, and definitely long before Android, Linux had repositories from which people always kept on pulling software to install onto their machines, as it is a fairly secure way of doing that, as all that software that is there is checked by the repository maintainers. Anyway, it's a very nice thing to have, but we're going to use a terminal one, which is fairly simple to use. It's called Yum, and I will show you fairly well how to use it. You will become proficient with it, so you don't have to worry about it. Another thing here is the system log. Now, even though most people tend to do these things in the terminal, the system log here, the tool, it gives you a rather nice overview of the things. So if you just type, you do require a root password in order to review the logs, as is to be expected. So you have of various processes here, of various things that have happened. You have their logs and you can see what is going on. This is especially important for troubleshooting. I would even argue that this is better than the terminal, as it gives a bit of a better overview of the existing logs, and then you can just scroll through them and see what is going on. Generally, people take a look at messages and what was going on in general with the system itself. You just scroll up and down and take a look at these lines. They don't mean much to you now, but they will. They will in time. Just show a bit of patience. You can't know everything from, if in like 5 minutes you cannot learn everything. That's for sure. Just a little bit of patience and you will eventually become proficient. Okay, so yeah, this is another thing that I'm going to show you fairly soon, but for the time being, let's just stick to what we have. System tools again. So you have startup applications. Here you can configure cron jobs, if I'm not mistaken. Well, you can configure cron jobs via the terminal, but here you can also use a graphical user interface to just say, okay, I want this application to run at startup, and I want this one, and I want this one, or I don't want that one, I don't want this one. So here you can actually create your own scripts and link them here. Just name it whatever you want, then you browse it in the file system, you find it, just double click on it, the command will be here, and then you can even comment it if you want. That script will run at startup. This is a very common thing for system administrators to have plenty of scripts that will run at startups. They usually carry a USB stick with them with like 10,000 scripts on it. Every particular script has its own thing. Usually those are troubleshooting tools that people make for themselves. I don't know, to filter certain traffic out, or to boot certain services, to kill certain services, to start certain services, sorry, not boot, and to display certain files, or to display certain logs, and to see the status of certain things. Anyway, that's pretty much it as far as this part is concerned. Perhaps one more thing is Red Hat Access and Boxes is actually for accessing other machines, so we won't need that at the time being, but it can be nice. You can use Red Hat Access to connect to their network directly from your operating system, and have a look if you can find anything useful there. But we shall deal more with these things a bit later on here. I'm just giving you a bit of intro. Down at the utilities, there are some fairly nice things. So Archive Manager can unpack pretty much anything. You know how in Windows you have to actually you have to download an unzip software. 7-zip is free, but you have RAR, or you have WinRAR or something of a kind that you have to pay for. Here in Linux, you can pretty much unpack anything for free, no problems. Got a lot of things here. Well, dictionary is not particularly useful to us at the moment. You get a disk usage analyzer, not bad. Font document. Okay, so remote desktop viewer is very nice. It comes free. You can utilize it, no problems, to access computers remotely and provide technical support. That can be very nice. You don't need to install anything extra there. Up here you got disks, so let's just open up our disks, and there we go. We got pretty much everything listed here. So it's 137 gigabytes hard disk. This is probably the Windows one, if I'm not mistaken. No, sorry, this is XFS Linux bootable. Down below we got some other Red Hat 2.7 gigabyte block partition. I don't exactly know what this is, but okay, so 80 block device. This should be home. Yep, there we go. So Red Hat home. Let's just see what this is. Oh, this is swap. There we go. So we can read it here. It's swap, and up here it's root. So you can figure out how you can review your partitioning scheme here without bigger problems by just clicking. It's fairly simple to read through it without any bigger difficulties. You can also create a disk image, restore a disk image, you can benchmark it. It provides a wide variety of options for you to play around with. I'll just go back to utilities to see if I've actually missed anything. Nope, that would be it. Okay, so there is one more thing that I want to show. Sorry, utilities. Sorry, action overview. Excellent. So if you go to action overview, you're going to be prompted with this, and on the right side you have your virtual desktop, so you can have multiple things on multiple desktops. That can be very nice, primarily because it's a space saver, so you can just switch between them. We'll probably do that later on as we progress. Here at the top center, you have a search box, so you can type in the approximate name of any application. So there we go. So terminal. Okay, so let's try something else. Baresso. No, I have a feeling I misspelled it. Baresso. There we go. Bracero. Sorry, Bracero. That's how it's read. I misread it because I don't use Bracero. I use the KDE one. But doesn't really matter. I want to show you something new and something a bit different. Anyway, you can do this in the terminal as I have said, but this is how you would search for things in your GUI interface, so you could actually find them. You don't need to know the file system by heart. You can just use the search functionality here and figure out where is what and how to find things. This is your sidebar on the left side. So you have Firefox here and some other things. This can be changed by a simple drag and drop. Fairly simple. You can even show the applications like this, frequent or all, and now you can just scroll down. So this has been implemented for a while now. I mean, if you have a touch screen or something like that, I bet this could work really well. But anyway, down here at the bottom is our number one program, the holy grail of power, the terminal. So let's just go ahead and open it. With this, I shall conclude today's lecture. In the next lecture, we will start using the terminal. I hope that you have familiarized yourself with this desktop layout, at least to an extent, to see where is what and what can you do where, because I remember when I was starting to learn, when I was figuring out how Linux works and coming from Windows, the graphical user interface was completely unclear to me. So I went around, I learned, I scowled, and so on and so forth, even though I should have probably learned the terminal first. But over the time, you learn how to use the terminal, you learn how to use the command line. It is important to know how to do things in GUI, primarily because that is your reserve option. So if you don't know how to do it in via terminal in the very beginning, while you're still learning, just go ahead and use the GUI. Don't waste more than an hour on something. If you can't figure it out, oh well, do it in a GUI and then come back in the terminal, especially the firewall settings and stuff like that. That is quite delicate, and you need precise commands to know exactly what is going on, to know exactly what sort of traffic are you allowing to pass and what sort of traffic are you not allowing to pass. In any case, as I said in the follow-up tutorial, we're going to jump straight into the terminal, so be ready. Until then, I bid you all farewell.